the United States into a police state over a few joints.
Hemp is petroleum. Hemp is food. Hemp is clothing.
Put the hands in the air!
And we see it as our patriotic duty in the state of Kentucky to grow hemp to replace that foreign oil, keep the money here in the United States.
Go into your dictionaries, go into your encyclopedias, go into your schoolrooms, and tell your teachers, let's check this stuff out.
Big, I'm gonna smoke a spliff. Wow, hey, yeah, come on, take a whiff now.
First one I went to for High Times was April Fool's Day, 1988 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The annual hash bash. We were invited by these kids in a dorm to come to the hash bash. They made it sound like a lot of fun. They said that there was only a $5 fine if you were caught smoking pot on the diag, and that a lot of people showed up, and Steve Hager thought it would be a lot of fun if we all jumped in a bus and got out there. So 2 weeks later, we were on a bus going out to Ann Arbor. And when we arrived there, we found that the hash bash tradition had kind of ended and turned into a few teenage kids getting arrested for drinking beer on the university. So we did everything we could to turn it around and make it fun. We made a big sign that said pot is legal, and we put a whole campaign built around our April issue, and we put pot is legal on the cover of the magazine.
I don't know if you guys know who's coming here, but they're a sort of new kind of freedom fighter. What's that, Paul? Yeah, we got it. What's that saying? What's pot legal? Pot legal, that's what it says. I can hear them.
And then we became real April Fools the next year because we went out in a big psychedelic bus.
The second year was the wildest. Steve went in the bus, the psychedelic bus. I said, what a bus? What is this, Ken Kesey all over again or something? Yeah, that's what we want to do. And everything, and I said, oh, wow, this is too much. And they painted it all up and it became a reality.
I'm not sure if this really happened. I can't quite remember anymore. See, I lead sort of a double life. I'm a librarian at a really conservative place. I can't say where, it's a private library, but in any case, it seems to me that one time going to a pot rally, there was a psychedelic bus honking outside my library waiting to get me, and it was sort of when worlds collide.
None of us were going to be caught dead on that stupid, old, smelly, rickety, broken down bus. We didn't think it would make it outside New York City, much less all the way to Ann Arbor. Well, this year the April Fool's joke was on us, because every other vehicle that we lined up to take us out there broke down or fell through. So by the time we got to New Jersey, everyone was forced to take the psychedelic bus the rest of the way to Ann Arbor.
It's a really fun experience to be on a bus with lots of people and singing and dancing and going to something that you know you have a purpose at.
And the bus was positively rocking. We rocked right out of New York. Everybody's playing guitars and
okay until it started to snow. It started to snow halfway through Pennsylvania.
They went out, it was snowing, going to the Appalachians, they were going,
And by the time we were in Ohio, we all felt like we had died, and we were up in the clouds going to heaven, because the bus was no longer riding on the road. It was on the ice, and you could feel it. It was just floating in the air. And everything around us was covered in white.
Well, we got to Ann Arbor. It took a long time. It was a 30-plus hour ride with several stops, many breakdowns, a long story.
We won't we got today on the American way, hemp. Yes, indeed, my friends. Come join us, one and all. Hear the call, legalize it!
We marched into the diag with drums, and we had a drum beat, and all these really freaky people, I mean, just an unusual bunch. People freaked out, and it was like a giant communication went on. It was yelling and screaming, and everybody says, oh, this is something positive. So we took the stage, the musicians kept playing the drums, and people were chanting, and it just created it was like Nirvana had come to the scene, you know, at the University of Michigan.
The editor-in-chief of High Times magazine, the founder of the Freedom Fighters, Mr. Stephen Hager.
I first smoked pot when I was 15 years old. It grows wild where I grew up in Champaign County in central Illinois, because they made all the farmers around that area grow it for the World War II effort. They made a film about it called Hemp for Victory. Made all the farmers watch it so they know what a great plant it was. I knew I liked it, so I figured it must be bad for you. It wasn't until 4 years ago when I came to High Times that I found out the truth. I saw the real medical facts, and the people that smoke pot live longer than the people that don't. Then I read a book by this guy named Jack Hager. It was called The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Anybody out there read that book? And I found out that everything you make out of petrochemicals, you can make out of this plant. In fact, they were making 25,000 different things out of everything from paint to oils to varnishes to methanol to the rope to clothes.
After reading Jack Herrera's book, when I realized that hemp was really the favorite crop of Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, and they worked really hard to try and get American farmers to grow it, it seemed really strange that we didn't know anything about hemp, that really kids in high school were somehow missing out on an important piece of American history. So in order to get people to think about that, I came up with the idea of wearing the tri-corner hat.
We came here 4 years ago and we put on these funny hats and we marched in here and there was a few hundred people. But the hemp movement is a happening thing right now. We just had a council with the Freedom Fighters, which is it's an open group to anybody. We welcome everybody, all of you, to come to our council. We had a campground about 20 miles outside of here, and last night we sat down. We're all equal at council. We passed a feather. It's a participatory democracy, the way this country's supposed to operate. And the really surprising thing is it works. So we have a council every year, and we decide who gets to be a judge at the annual Cannabis Cup Awards in Holland. And we pick the brother or sister that we think has done the most for the movement.
Okay, what we'll do then is we'll call for a consensus on Sean, and then we'll call for a consensus on Roger. And the loudest hoe is going to win the contest. How does that sound, everybody?
Great.
All right. Okay, everybody thinks Sean should be Freedom Fighter of the Year and go to the Cannabis Cup as a judge. Say ho. Ho! Everybody who thinks Roger Belknap should be Freedom Fighter of the Year, say ho. Oh! Roger Belknap is going dancing.
When we first met Jack Herrera, he would be speaking at rallies and speaking about hemp. And he would be explaining all these technical, scientific applications of the hemp plant. And he would be speaking about up here, because the rest of the crowd would want to hear about legalize marijuana, let's smoke it, let's get stoned. Then in 1989, in 88 and 89, we started presenting his information to our readers. And things slowly started to turn around. And Jack started to be much more accepted by the movement. And his arguments gained a lot more credibility when he would speak at these gatherings. Until by 1991, there wasn't a marijuana movement anymore. It was now the hemp movement, and Jack Herrera had become its guru.
For about 2,000 years prior to marijuana being made illegal, or 3,000 years prior to being made illegal, up until about 1820, the world literally ran on hemp, on canvas. All our sails, our ropes, our nets, all our clothing, all our bed sheets, all our diapers, our towels, our Conestoga wagons, our covered wagons that went west, all the sails, the word canvas is a Dutch pronunciation, the Dutch pronunciation of the word canvas.
You here going to the University of Michigan will find out, if you look in your library, that hemp is the #1 biomass that you have on this planet. That means that hemp will grow more per acre than anything else that we grow on our earth.
Knowing what I know about hemp right now, that tomorrow if they outlawed all the fossil fuels, synthetic fibers, petrochemicals, that the one thing Earth has is an annual renewable resource that can replace all of it. In fact, nothing else will work. Nothing else will work if they're serious of reversing the greenhouse effect, if they're serious of even stopping our encroachment on nature. Hemp can now make, as an annual renewable farmable crop, all the paper, fiber, most of the fiber, and 100% of the fuel for America. So next year, I would like to see it in Ann Arbor. Not that it was just not a $5 fine for smoking pot, that it was a $5 fine for not growing pot in Ann Arbor.
Really surprised. I must admit, at first I thought it was a big joke. You know, protest pot, hemp for paper. I mean, you know, I just wanted to get high, you know. But then I saw that we could tie in a lot of feelings and a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and it was working. The pot protest was on.
A large cone-shaped device made of paper, stuffed with your favorite herb. Split, I'm gonna take a whip. Wow, hey, yeah, come on, take a whip. Pow, big split.
One of the biggest milestones was when we got a hold of the film Hemp for Victory, which the Department of Agriculture had made in 1942 to encourage American farmers to grow hemp. This was the most important piece of evidence of what hemp really was that we ever came across. I argued and argued with my parents for many, many years about the legalization of marijuana, and they were always against it until the day I came home and I showed them Hemp for Victory. And at that moment, they completely changed their mind.
Long ago, when these ancient Grecian temples were new, hemp was already old in the service of mankind. For thousands of years even then, this plant had been grown for cordage and coarse cloth in China and elsewhere in the East. For centuries prior to about 1850, all the ships that sailed the western seas were rigged with hempen rope and sails. For the sailor, no less than the hangman, hemp was indispensable. This is hemp seed. Be careful how you use it. For to grow hemp legally, you must have a federal registration and tax stamp. This is provided for in your contract. Ask your AAA committeeman or your county agent about it. Don't forget, products spun from American-grown hemp. Twine of various kinds for tying, winding armatures, and upholsterer's work. Rope for marine rigging and towing, for hay forks, derricks, and heavy-duty tackle. Light-duty fire hose. Thread for shoes for millions of American soldiers. And parachute webbing for our paratroopers. Hemp for mooring ships. Hemp for tow lines. Hemp for tackle and gear. Hemp for countless naval uses, both on ship and shore. Just as in the days when old Ironside sailed the seas victorious, with her hempen shrouds and hempen sails. Hemp for victory.
The Lone Reefer is a postmodern cowboy, totally whacked out in his presentation, but yet serious in his commitment.
Don't criticize it, legalize it!
So fast, only by
legalize it!
The only crime about hemp is the law against it!
Let's let them know how we feel. We're tired of their dirty deal. Paying too high a price for something real. So we're going to keep marching on Capitol Hill and free our weed with a brand new bill, ready or not, legalized pot. Yes, we...
Don Trump from Madison was the lucky winner of the Amsterdam trip because he took time to write his representatives and send a response to the freedom fighters.
The whole concept of writing letters to Congress and sending somebody to the annual Cannabis Cup Awards in Holland as a reward for writing letters to Congress was an idea that was created by one of the first of the freedom fighters, the Lone Reefer, who was just somebody who appeared from the ads we put in the magazine. He appeared at the Hash Bash the first year we were there, and he came with a whole persona, and he had like joints rolled and stuck into a gun belt. And the gun, instead of guns, he was armed with leaflets about hemp and the environment. And when he came up to speak one time, I remember he just started pulling those joints out of his gun belt and lighting them one by one.
The state of Kentucky.
We're going to exercise Kentucky's heritage as the world's largest hemp producer for over 100 years, and we're going to reach up there and we're going to grab the lion's share of that multi-billion-dollar agricultural fuel market that the petroleum companies are trying to keep us to get, and have actually gotten American military sent halfway around the world, risking a nuclear world war for a crop that our farmers could replace in the next growing season.
Hemp is petroleum. Hemp is food. Hemp is clothing. Hemp is paper. Hemp is over 100,000 different things, from dynamite to cellophane to rope to canvas. It's a shame that our farmers aren't allowed to grow this again. They used to do all right with it. And when you take the hemp away from the Kentucky farmer, it's like taking the cotton away from the Texas farmer, or the wheat away from the Kansas farmer.
At the first Ann Arbor hash bash, this nutty guy stood up in the crowd, started screaming about how drugs kill people, and grabbed the microphone away from John Getman, who was then national director of NORML, the National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws. John Getman was taken aback. He had never had anything like this happen to him before.
And by throwing marijuana smokers in jail after them.
You are wrong. You are absolutely wrong. You are killing yourself.
Ed, who is a yippie from way back, grabbed this guy, wrestled him away from the microphone.
Well, I can't go on here because there's nobody up here smoking a joint with me. Is there somebody here with a joint? One person. Hey, come back here. Come back here. Earlier today, some people from NORML were setting up a booth. And one of the officers here at the university started to say to the people who were setting up, oh, you can't sell this book, and you can't sell that book, and you can't sell this t-shirt. And I said to the fellow, oh, did you repeal the First Amendment? And he had a bunch of officers with him. And he said, I'm telling you. And I said, well, I'm telling you, get out. And that's what I have to say to the officers who are in this crowd trying to bust people. Get out of the crowd.
She can't be released on her own? Is that how it works? How old is the law?
Let her go! Let her go! Let her go!
For the past 20 years, there's been a steady erosion of civil rights in this country. The First Amendment, the right to free speech, the right to a free press, all these things are becoming fantasies. We've got more people in jail per capita now than in any other country in the world. And they've been able to take this drug war hysteria that they've created and whip it up into such a frenzy that they created a police state without anybody realizing what's going on. So one of the first things we wanted to do with the freedom fighters was take the symbol of the flag away from the right wing. They don't deserve the flag anymore. Thomas Jefferson and George Washington would not be in favor of the trashing of the American Constitution, which is what's going on right now. They would have known that the American Constitution is written on hemp paper and that the first American flag was made out of hemp. And if anybody deserves the right to wave the American flag, It's the freedom-fighting hempsters of America.
So when the soul assassins and the assassinets hit the stage, it was like pow! It was like the summer of love again, you know? You know, with the garage rock, and the girls would be singing and jamming, and everybody would just get into it like one big family.
Before my time is through, I'm going all the way, pretty baby, to see what I can do. All the things I've been looking for, yeah, everyone I'll find. I'll see the sights, I'll hear the sounds before the end of my time. I'm going all the way, yeah. I'm going all the way. My hopes are getting so much higher. My soul is burning inside you, just like a flame that's turned into a fire, just like a change in the tide. All the towns from the north to the south, and from the east to the west, yeah. All the cities, all the countries, before that long, long rest, yeah. I'm going all the way, yeah. I'm going all the way. I'm going all the way, yeah.
Actually, it was right around Thanksgiving, and I was at a party, and a couple of stoned freaks came up and asked me if I wanted to be in a rock and roll band. It sounded like a line to me, so of course I didn't give them my phone number. They gave me theirs, and I called them at High Times of all places. And the next thing I knew, I was driving around the country in the marijuana movement. And that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
To play at a rally is, well, one of the best experiences I've ever had as a performer because it's so large. They have been so big. And the response is always phenomenal because I think the band is really good. And the people obviously enjoy it. And there would always be other bands and just a lot of, it felt very familial. It was a really cool experience.
I went to my first National Rainbow Gathering in Minnesota in 1990, and there were a lot of very important things that I learned from that experience. The Rainbows were very highly organized, and it was incredible what they accomplished. They brought more than 10,000 people up into a national forest, and they took care of them. They fed them for free. They had the best hospital healthcare system for free I'd ever seen, operating for an entire week up there in the mountains. And so I tried to incorporate some of the things that the rainbows had learned about organizing. The most important thing was they had no leaders. Everybody was equal. Everybody had the equal voice at council. So I tried to get the rainbows and the freedom fighters to kind of join up together. We went to the National Winter Gathering in Ocala.
Sacred way. Sacred earth, listen what I have to say. Smoke it when the music plays. Sacred earth, help you find a way. Sacred earth, don't smoke like tobacco. Sacred earth, don't smoke in a hassle. Render unto Caesar in Caesar's own kind. Some criticize, some they damn it. Don't throw your pearls before the swine.
That gets legal hemp.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, right, Elsie. Okay.
LV.
Well, and how? I know it was a long time and hard.
Yeah,
A lot of different
12 years of suffering with glaucoma, letting them butcher one eye while I said, you take care of that one, I take care of this one. And whoever wins gets their medication. Lose one eye to conventional treatments. I keep my sight better than what it was on the other eye, but I never had terrific eyes anyway. But I do have all of my optic nerve in that eye after 17 years of using marijuana, 16 years. So I can certainly talk about my immune system and all that good stuff that's supposed to have been destroyed, the memory I'm not supposed to have. I can dispel a lot of myths in the medical community too.
Everyone here. It's like the Freedom Fighters is a tribe of medicine peoples.
Yeah.
You know? You went through how the process for getting legal hemp.
First you get arrested, then you get a good lawyer, then you get all the media. Well, actually, first you get arrested, then you get in all the media, then you get a good lawyer, and then it takes a battle of the century. And on an emergency basis, it took us 9 months to receive it, and I understand I was very lucky. Most of them had taken a year and a half or more.
Did you have to pay a lot of lawyers doing that?
You know, my attorney, Norman Kent, represented me totally pro bono.
Okay, if he had to get his regular fee, how much money would it have cost?
It would have been thousands of dollars, thousands.
You don't know how much?
No, I know that they were starting a legal defense thing, and they expected to come up with maybe $25,000.
$25,000 to get the right to medicate yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus, we had to involve all the media. I mean, really, not to mention what it cost the taxpayers to take me to trial. You know. But I think that one of the main issues was we became very vocal about it, and because not too many people can argue with you when you can prove, hey, I let you do it your way.
I have a vision I'd like to share with council, and I'd like to pass the feather around the teepee and have everybody who has a similar vision or a vision of any kind that can help legalize hemp to give that vision to us now.
My name is Ron Butcher. I'm a healer from Dayton, Ohio. I have a vision where no doctor will be afraid to tell her or his patients that cannabis can ease their suffering.
Oh.
My vision is that I will never see another cancer or AIDS patient slowly starve to death because cannabis is denied them. My vision is that I will never see another patient go to their deaths hopelessly addicted to opiates or in pain because this substance is denied them. My vision is to see this natural herbal medication rescheduled immediately.
You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
You put the red snapper in the Cincy butter, makes a young girl's heart go a-flutter.
Aye, 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 aye.
He's Chef Rob.
It's party time! It's party time! All the pot people are here on a sunny day. We make the snow go away!
So, I want you to send out a love vibration that spreads across the nation right now, saying, hemp love! Hemp love! Hemp love! I love you all, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's all. Let me tell you all a story about Chef Robinson, right? He come all the way from Chicago. He comes all the way for Rasta Pasta Pesto now.
Aye, 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 aye.
He's Chef Rob.
Aye, 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 aye.
He's Chef Rob.
Aye, 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 aye.
He's a Chef Rob.
One of the best success stories as far as activism goes was Roger Belknap, who was living on his own little mountaintop in West Virginia, had very little contact with the outside world. And he went from that to becoming one of the most important spokespeople. He started throwing hemp awareness seminars in West Virginia. And what was so great about the hemp awareness seminar was that it attracted a different class of people. It attracted your average husband and wife. And it was not billed as a rock and roll party or anything like that. It was just billed as an opportunity to hear the other side of the story indoors in a very controlled setting. And I think more people's minds were changed at the West Virginia Hemp Seminar than any rally I've ever seen. People came in kind of closed or dubious about hemp, and when they left, there was no doubt in their minds that the government was lying to them.
George Washington was a hemp farmer. His advice to the American farmers was, make the most of the hemp seed, sow it everywhere. I think if George Washington was alive today, he would recognize Roger Belknap for what he is, a great American patriot. For 3 years now, we've been trying to tell the American media about the hemp plant, what it really is, all this information that we've uncovered, mostly through Jack Herrera's research. He wrote a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes. And for 3 years, the government's been trying to put our magazine out of business. They target our advertisers, our writers, our distributors, They follow us around, they try and stamp us out, just like they spent 50 years trying to stamp out the hemp plant. But anybody who knows anything about hemp knows that they aren't winning this war. There's hemp growing in every state in America, and it will continue to grow there. I've got a book here called The Reign of Law, A Tale of the Kentucky Hemp Fields. This was a best-selling book the year it came out in 1900. The paper in this book looks like it'll last another 90 years, no problem. I can wrinkle it up, push it back out. You buy a book today, it won't last 25 years. Every book in our library published since hemp prohibition has fallen apart or is about to fall apart because it's made and processed with petrochemicals. The production of paper in this country is a national disgrace. All of our paper is contaminated with dioxin. It's the #1 source of river pollution in America. And we've never had to pollute a single river or chop down a single tree because on 1 acre of hemp, you can produce as much paper as 4 acres of trees. And the government knew that in 1916. And anybody who wants to read a study published by the Department of Agriculture can find that out. So why have we deforested half of North America to make paper out of trees, give us cancer, pollute our rivers, destroy our environment, when we could have had natural, non-polluting paper made out of hemp? You fucking
If the hemp movement can keep the kind of momentum it's got moving, marijuana will be legal in a matter of years. Within 5 years, hemp and marijuana will be legal. This is the fastest growing movement in the world.
I know that many of the largest corporations in the world, the petrochemical industry, the alcohol and tobacco industry, the pharmaceutical industry, all of these corporations stand to lose billions of dollars if it is made legal. But I do feel that there is truth on the side of the hemp movement, and that the truth is more powerful than all the police and the CIA and the FBI and the other agents of repression in this country. And every time we go to a rally, I see new faces speaking out against hemp prohibition. Every time I get a Freedom Fighter newsletter in the mail, I see more names, more vocalizers. And I've seen the momentum of this movement build so fast that I really believe that hemp prohibition will be overturned. I don't know when, but this war has been going on for over 20 years now, and I think there's more marijuana being grown in America today than there was 20 years ago. So they're not going to win.
I believe in the wisdom of the common man. I believe in the existence of a higher plan. I believe in what's right and what's wrong.